Hi, welcome to our Daily Bread. I'm Father Paul Sile, and today I'm in my kitchen, alone, just me and you together. And we're going to cook some things and talk about devotions in the Catholic Church, because devotions, they draw us closer to God. They've got a very interesting history, and they're as varied as the number of people on the face of the earth. Everybody's got different devotions in the Catholic Church that draw them in more profoundly to the life of God. Now, we also use food with some of our devotions. Obviously the most obvious is when we use bread and wine at Mass. But I'm going to try to make some little connections today with food and with devotions, no matter how oddly it may sound. And the first thing I'm going to do is make chicken stock in honor of St. Simon Stock. St. Simon Stock was a Carmelite of the 13th century. I'm going to talk about him. But you know, chicken stock is so easy to make, relatively easy to make. It's not as easy as buying a can of it, but it's a lot less salty. It's not as easy as going to the supermarket and getting one of those boxes off the shelf, but it tastes much richer, and you know you made it yourself and you know what goes into it. So one of the first things we're going to start with, I have a real big stock pot, but I'm going to use a more friendly family-sized stock pot that you might use at home. And I am going to put in some olive oil, just a little bit. That pan is a little bit hot. Let me turn that down. Okay, I don't want to smoke up that much. Okay. The best way to make chicken stock is probably just to cook a chicken, a whole chicken, and then use the leftover carcass to be the basis of your stock. Now, I didn't have a chicken, so one of the things I like to use would be the chicken thighs, which are very, very flavorful. So I put a little garlic, crushed garlic in here, a couple of tablespoons. The thing again with stock too is that it's not an exact science. I mean, there we go. I'm going to put this in. Notice I didn't season it because we're going to put seasoning in. These are chicken thighs, which are one of the more flavorful parts of the chicken. And also, so they'll make a great stock. So let me brown those a little bit on that side. Now I've got on the table here, I've got some onions, I've got some celery, I've got some carrots that I have roasted in the oven. Those are going to go in too in just a moment. Now, next to this little more, this is more of a, home-sized stock pot. I've got a huge stock pot here that's been cooking since early this morning, and it's got more of all the ingredients in it. And every once in a while, you add a little water. We want the stock to be concentrated, but we also want it to kind of cook down slowly. Now, I mentioned there was a saint by the name of St. Simon Stock. He was a Carmelite. The Carmel order traces, now an order is, let me put a little more water in there. An order, a society, the Carmelites, are a group of people, priests and brothers and sisters religious, who are dedicated to a certain rule of life. They live a certain way, they have particular ministries, perhaps in education, perhaps they're monastics. They go away to a monastery for their whole life and pray for the church, as well as do the work that they need to do. So Simon Stock was a Carmelite who in the 13th century had a vision of the Blessed Mother. And in this vision of the Blessed Mother, Mary spoke to Simon Stock, and Mary gave them what we call a scapular. And a scapular comes from the words for your shoulder blades, the scapula. And the scapular is a part of the, even to this day, a part of the formal Carmelite outfit, habit, that they wear. And it's a long brown piece of cloth that hangs rectangularly down along the front, not unlike my apron, except there's an identical back to it and it goes over your head. And Mary made a promise to St. Simon Stock, saying, anyone who wears my scapular will not die outside of the graces of the Catholic Church. So you'll find many Catholics who have a devotion to Our Blessed Lady based on the promise of St. Simon Stock. Now, speaking of stock, here I am with my little chickens. You see they're getting nice and brown and toasty there. So we want to have that happen, okay, especially on that skin. So we're getting there with that. Now, a stock is a great way to use leftovers like bits of vegetables, tops of celery. You want to get them caramelized, as is the word we use so much nowadays, isn't it? Well, I'm mixing caramelized with the Carmelite. I know it's a stretch. Okay, never mind. Okay, so we've got our stock really starting here. Now, in my big pot of stock, I had some skins of fava beans. I had all kinds of things that were left over, and I just kind of threw them in there. Sometimes I like to throw a little lemon juice in, just a little, and put the lemon in there. At the end of last season, what I do is I take my fresh herbs from the garden and I set them in this little basket here, and then I let them dry in the cupboard all season. I just go to the cupboard and there's some lemon thyme here. There's some oregano. I know there's some sage here. And you can just kind of put that all in there. In fact, I'm just going to do all of this with my leftovers because it's the new stuff is coming out, so we're all set with that. And now we're going to put in at least a gallon of water. And what we're going to do then, with this gallon of water, we're going to bring this to a boil and then simmer it for hours and hours and hours. Yes, hours and hours and hours. And we're going to keep adding water to this for our chicken stock. And then a little bit later on in our program, what I'm going to do is show us one soup that we could make with our chicken stock today. Let me move this over back to here. All right. Now here I got some spices in here that I don't want in here, some herbs. I want a clean pan. That's always my biggest problem with a recipe. They always start with find a clean pan, you know, and that's tough for me. Okay, I'm going to make some, you're going to love this. I'm going to make some caramel sauce. I know, it's really caramel, but today it's going to be caramel sauce. And I'm going to put in 1 cup of white sugar. Oh, there's a little herb in there. We'll pull that out. And about 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And I got that on. And about 1/2 cup of water. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a stir. A lot of these things are done by feel, you know. So what we're going to do is we're going to simmer this until it melts and continues to get a little bit more brown. Our soup, I shouldn't call it soup, our stock is on, our small family-sized pot for use at home. I've got this caramel sauce going. We're going to make all kinds of good things. And we're going to talk more about devotions. Again, devotions draw us into the life of God, many times through saints. Who are saints? Saints are our friends in heaven. You all know the song, "Oh, when the saints go marching in." Well, we believe that those saints have marched in and await us and really help us in the same way that earthly friends will help us when we say, "Oh, I need some help. Could you help me move?" You know, that's a big one to ask somebody to help you do. Could you say a prayer for me or for someone who's sick in the family? Now, St. Joseph is the patron saint of the Universal Church and of our Diocese of Buffalo. We're going to talk about him a little bit and St. Joseph's Day traditions. I'm going to use some of our stock to make a dish for St. Joseph's Day. And then we'll continue with our caramel sauce and we got a little pound cake. I think you're going to like that. So don't go away. We're going to be back with some more on Our Daily Bread right after this. Welcome back to our Daily Bread, where we're talking about popular Catholic devotions. Now, St. Joseph appears, of course, in sacred scripture. He has a dream that he should take Mary as his wife. He leads the Holy Family through their travels. He takes the Holy Child and his mother to Egypt to escape the persecution of King Herod. And St. Joseph doesn't appear then much else in the sacred scriptures. When Mary and Jesus go to the wedding feast at Cana, St. Joseph isn't there. We presume by that time he may have been dead. We don't know. But St. Joseph still has a great influence on us today as kind of a model of what it means to be a husband, a man who cares for family and friends. St. Joseph's Day is March 19th. And on that day, Catholics around the world, they have meatless feasts in honor of St. Joseph. Now I am going to make a basically meatless soup, which we call pasta a fagioli. I'm going to do this with our stock that I've just made. Let me start with a small bit of olive oil in the bottom of a warm pan. Now, I'm going to turn that up just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to put in a few cloves of garlic. Now, with soup and with stock and with pasta a fagioli, there's so many different ways of making it. Pasta is, of course, pasta. Fagioli are the beans. I used, however, chichi beans or chickpeas, not out of a can, and I also used fava beans, which I really like. Now, the fava beans, you just kind of, you soak them overnight, and you don't have to take the skin off. You can leave the skin on, but I think it's a little too chewy. So what they do, if you soak this in water overnight, they become very easy to peel, and I peeled most of the beans. Every once in a while you get a little stubborn one like this, a little dry one, you know, and it's not worth keeping. And there's another dry one there. So if you can roll the skin right off, it comes off, the beans split, and I think it adds for a little bit easier digestible soup, if you'd like me to say it that way. All right, so I got those, and I got the chichi beans. Chichi beans, I actually not only soaked, but I cooked them because they are a bean which, well, you know what they look like. Use them for so many things. They make chickpea flour, all kinds of things. So I'm going to put in our beans. A few of them have the skins on. That's not going to hurt anything. Actually, I'll just dump the whole liquid in there. I changed the liquid several times because, you know, I want to rinse out any of the things from the field that might have still been in there. But that liquid is really good. And let me turn this up. Now, I like to put a little bit of some spinach in as well, or arugula. This is a combination of both. All right, we're going to cook that down. All right. Now, you might put tomatoes in it, you might not. You might put onions in it, you might not. You might do it. What you need to make pasta fagioli, as we call it, is you need pasta, you need beans, and you need some stock, basically. By the way, here's my little ode to the sardine or anchovy. This is actually a little anchovy paste. I don't tell anybody it's in there. I don't really care for anchovies myself, but I'm learning to like them better as I go on in life. But I like to put just a little bit of anchovy flavor in there. That'll add a little bit of salt. Remember, I didn't season the stock yet, did I? No. Now let's look at these beautiful San Marzano tomatoes. I just washed my hands, so don't worry. Now, San Marzano tomatoes come from a region of Italy near Mount Vesuvius. And they had a wonderful sweetness. It's almost like a eucalyptus smell to them, like a beautiful fragrance. And I've got these garbanzo beans, which I cooked. I'm just going to put these in here, mix them together a little bit. I don't have to do it this way. You can do this whatever way you want, really. Now, you know, St. Joseph, we don't know much about St. Joseph. Yet there are novenas and prayers and all kinds of things asking for the intercession of St. Joseph. Okay, we got our spinach kind of breaking down here. We've got our tomatoes going in. We've got our stock cooking. And at the end of the cooking time of the stock, remember, you think of St. Simon's stock when I mentioned stock, the great Carmelite. And what we do is we're going to take that stock, we're going to let it cool, we skim the scum off the top, we strain it, we strain out the meat. If there's any meat left and then we can set that aside for a chicken type of soup or chicken soup. And but for pasta fagioli, we're not going to put the meat in, we're just going to use the stock, the beans that we're going to cook until they become a little more tender, the spinach and the arugula, which I like to put in. You don't have to. Again, everything's very individual in this. And then, of course, we're going to end up with ditalini, which is the traditional pasta for soup. I'm not going to put this in yet, but eventually it's going to go into the soup. It is cooked now al dente, which means to the tooth or a little bit tough, because it's going to keep cooking once we put it into this soup. Okay, now I'm going to put some stock in here. So we got all those great little stems and flavoring things in there, and that stock is going right into our pasta fazool, or pasta a fagioli. And we're going to simmer that for, I'm going to say about a half an hour or so. It doesn't take a long time. Remember, I cooked the beans. I soaked the fava beans, and the chichi beans I soaked and cooked because they're a little bit of a harder bean. Now, again, you could use canned, but isn't it nice to use something that you kind of know is a little bit more like what it's supposed to take like? Ow, that's hot. That'll happen when you forget about those metal handles. Okay, let me move this over to another burner and let that simmer for about a half an hour or so before we finish up our soup. And now we've got our, isn't that beautiful looking caramel sauce? Now you take that off the burner, you turn the heat off, and you're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of butter. Let me go like that. We're going to gently stir that in. Ooh. Now see how it's going to bubble up like that? There we go. Okay. We want that to happen. About half a cup of cream. You know, yeah, this isn't a low-cal thing, believe me, so. Okay. Now, if you want, I made a sauce earlier with bourbon in it. If you like to put a little bourbon in, it makes a nice kind of adult sauce. But this one I'm going to make for, more thinking of my niece and nephews here, with a little bit of vanilla. Just about maybe a teaspoon of vanilla there. Be careful of that hot handle. Oh, look at how beautiful that is. Now, you could get it, again, in a jar in the store, but you know, it'll have all kinds of other things in it, little things to stabilize it, and, you know, a little corn syrup and this and that. This we're just going to make very purely. We're going to thicken that for about 15 minutes on the stove. I'm going to put the pasta in and finish off our pasta fazool, and we're going to be back with more on Our Daily Bread as we talk about devotions and how food draws us in to life with one another and life with God. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Daily Bread, where we've been talking today about Catholic devotions. Just a few. We just kind of scratched the surface. I made some chicken stock in honor of St. Simon Stock, who was given the brown scapular for the Carmelites by the Blessed Mother in a vision that he had. And that stock is really good and very tasty and was the basis for our pasta a fagioli, or as we like to say in America, pasta fazool, which is soup with beans, a stock, tomatoes. You can make it in different ways. One thing you do have to put on it, though, is cheese. And I like the pecorino romano, because the pecorino romano adds, it's a sheep's cheese, sheep's milk cheese, and it adds a wonderful salty flavor. And remember, I didn't put many seasonings as far as salt into our stock, but you could do that. And I like a little, you know, sometimes we use pepper flakes, but this is the red pepper flakes, but it grinds them very finely, so it's not such a powerful punch of heat all in one mouthful. So we've got the pasta a fagioli, which is in honor of St. Joseph. We remember the meatless feast of St. Joseph Day, St. Joseph, the husband of Mary, foster father of Jesus. Now, what else? We made caramel sauce, yes, for the caramels. Well, I know we took a little liberties with this. The Carmelites is not the same as caramel sauce, but there's how beautiful that is. And I made one with bourbon off air, and this one without bourbon, and I actually like the one without the bourbon a little bit better. Isn't that beautiful? So we got, I think we're pretty well all set today. I'm going to take some pound cake, which we got at our local supermarket, you know. And did you ever use kumquats? I understand you can stuff them with macadamia nuts, and they're out of this world. But that's kind of a crazy thing. But I saw these at the supermarket the other day, so I thought, well, we'll try some kumquats. A little kind of tart and tangy. And how about some of this sauce? This is decadent. This is something we don't eat every day, right? In fact, it'd be good to have for a special feast day or something along those lines. Maybe a little bit of, not maybe, a little bit of whipped cream. Well, let's put that right over there on the side. How does that look? Looks good to me. One of the devotions that people think about are novenas. What is a novena? Well, novena comes from a word that means 9. Novena is 9 days of prayer. That's what it technically is. And the first novena of the church was between Ascension Thursday and Pentecost Sunday. Ascension was the day that Christians believed that Jesus ascended into heaven. Pentecost was the day the Holy Spirit descended upon the apostles in the upper room, and the birthday of the church took place. That's what we call the birth of the church at Pentecost, when the apostles were empowered to go out and to proclaim the good news. And we remember these things and so many more with so many different devotions, the scapular, the rosary, novenas, all of these things. But ultimately what it's all about is getting closer to God, and getting closer, by being close to God, to one another, our brothers and sisters in and outside of the faith. So I'm Father Paul Seil. Thanks for joining us on our daily bread. I'm going to start with the pasta fazool, or pasta a fagioli. And by the way, you can get these and all of our recipes really at odbtv.org. That's odbtv.org. Put a touch of salt in. Remember, we didn't put any salt in when we were making the stock. Oh, and a little aftertaste of that hot pepper, the beans, a little bit of spinach and arugula. But of course, for me, the pecorino romano really makes it, you know. Now we've got our pound cake. And you know what's so popular now, of course, is salted caramel, right? We put a little tiny touches of salt on there. Let's see how that tastes. I'm going to say it's going to be good. I could be wrong. Oh boy, this is killer. This is killing me. Yeah, really, literally. Well, that's about as decadent as you can get. If you want to really celebrate a saint or a devotion, caramel with pound cake and with whipped cream with kumquats, well, there's nothing better than that. Hope you've enjoyed our show. I've enjoyed being with you as we talked about devotions in the Catholic faith. Whatever your devotion is, whatever you find that brings you closer to God, continue to celebrate that, share it with others, so we all become more and more brothers and sisters in our journey to the heavenly kingdom. Until next time, God bless you, and we'll see you again on Our Daily Bread. Oh, the kumquats ruin it. No kumquats. Don't put in kumquats. In fact, don't put any fruit in it at all. Oh, you know what? Something's going to happen here. Those alarms are going to go off. What do we do to get rid of those alarms before? Huh? Styrofoam? Hope my doctor's not watching. Salt and sugar.